It is the most prestigious night on the musical calendar. This Sunday, the 66th annual Grammy Awards will take place. And while this is a night for glitz and glamour and star watching, for heavy metal fans, it's usually a night of frustration and bewilderment. Because whenever the Grammys are involved, heavy metal is usually ignored, or if they try to represent, they usually do a terrible job of it. So will this year be any different? The nominations for Best Metal Performance are in. Let's see how they did. Next. Welcome, metal enthusiast, to a special episode of The Metal Dude Abides. Tonight, we're going to take a look at the Grammy Awards for 2023, and we are going to give a ranking of how the Grammys did this year. As I said on the opening monologue, the Grammys are notorious for being, not very knowledgeable about heavy metal. So I thought in order to check how they did this year, very simply, we would go through the 5 nominees, ranking them from 5 to 1, and then giving my analysis at the end of it as to who I think should take home the awards this year. So without further ado, let's get to the nominees. Our 5th nominee is an easy call. It would be Ghost for their cover of the Iron Maiden classic Phantom of the Opera. Now, I believe this is the 4th nomination for Ghost, and they actually won a Grammy in 2016 for the single Cerise. Now, they were also a nominee last year, so this is the 2nd year in a row Ghost has pulled down a nomination. But I don't think they're worthy of a nomination this year. And the reason being is very simple. In the year of our Lord 2023, there was so much good heavy metal music. I just can't see giving a band a nomination for a cover song. It's a great cover. I really have enjoyed it. I put it on my covers playlist. But I think it's really hard for me to appreciate a cover that's from another heavy metal band. There's always exceptions to the rule of maybe this cover would be worthy of a nomination. I look back at one of our other nominees that we'll talk about here in a second, Disturbed, and their cover of Simon and Garfunkel's Sound of Silence was phenomenal. Maybe something like that had such far-reaching impact on the music world. Maybe I could see giving that a nomination. This doesn't fit the bill, though. It is a little bit different than the Iron Maiden classic, simply because if you think back, this was one of the original, Soundhouse tapes from Iron Maiden. Phantom of the Opera goes all the way back to their very first album, where we're talking about the Paul Di'Anno era of Iron Maiden. And their first album, while it's a Hall of Fame level album, is very raw. We're not talking about the sophisticated Iron Maiden we see today with big budgets and big productions. This was pretty much a low-budget intro to the rock world. So the one thing that stands out about this track is that obviously Ghost, let's do math here, 43 years later, has a much better production of this song, but it's essentially the same song. Smoother vocals, better production, but pretty much the same arrangement. So I just, there's nothing here that makes me think this is such a fantastic cover that it should be a Grammy nominated song. So it's an easy 5 for me. And quite frankly, if I'm predicting, I don't think they're going to win the Grammy either. Again, the Grammys are known for making foul-ups, so nothing would surprise me. But I just don't think that this is worthy of a Grammy win. And I would rather give it to someone who has created new and original music this year. Speaking of new and original music, let's go to our fourth ranked nominee. Our fourth ranked nominee is one of my all-time favorite bands. And believe it or not, a bit of a darling in the Grammy nomination business. Slipknot with Hive Mind. Now, believe it or not, Slipknot has had 11 Grammy nominations, one of the most decorated heavy metal bands around. Even brought home the big prize in 2006 with the epic single, Before I Forget. But I'm ranking them fairly low this year for a couple of reasons. The first one's a technicality. This song technically came out in 2022. We talk about how to fix the Grammys. Well, here's a simple suggestion. If you're going to have an award show celebrating the great music of 2023, make the music all be from 2023. The Grammys has a very complicated formula that if you're in October or beyond, you're in the next year, September and below, you're in that year. It makes no sense to me. I think it would be a lot easier, and I think it would be better for fans and others to follow if you just said these are the best songs and albums of 2023. So having some songs or albums coming from late 2022, I guess it's not a big deal, but again, if we're going to fix the Grammy so it's a little bit more interesting and fun for people, that would be one reason I would not pick this album. The second reason is I don't believe that this is one of the stronger Slipknot songs or albums. This just doesn't rise to the usual Slipknot greatness. And so I would hate to reward them for a song that I don't think is one that is one of their best. Ironically, though, this is my favorite song of their last album. It is a really good song, but I don't think it rises to quite to the cream of the crop when you're talking about all the great music that happened in 2023. And maybe it's a little unfair that I'm, putting Slipknot on a curve, but when you think about all the great Slipknot songs, all the great Slipknot albums, I just don't think this one quite lived up to it. So I'm going to rank this one at number 4. The other thing now, will Slipknot win the Grammy? Again, I would put the odds of them winning pretty low when you consider they've had 11 nominations for songs and albums, much better than this one, and only brought home the prize once. I would be, I think, very surprised if Slipknot ends up taking the gold this year. The other thing is right now, this has nothing to do with the music, but as you guys probably have seen on the internet, Slipknot's going through an ugly divorce with their drummer, and so it would be pretty awkward for Slipknot to receive an award, and who shows up to pick up the award, who's not there to pick up the award. You know how that all goes. So let's just leave that drama at home. Slipknot, this isn't the year they should win it anyway, so there's no sense parading them about and all their dirty laundry. So coming in at number 4, Slipknot with Hive Mind. All right. Our third nomination is going to sound very similar to our fourth nomination because this comes also from one of my favorite all-time bands, Disturbed, and the song Bad Man. Why is it like the last one? Well, again, one of my favorite all-time bands. Secondly, nitpicky time once again, this song technically came out in 2022. So again, I would prefer the Grammys pick some of the best stuff from 2023. Also, this is not the strongest Disturbed album and or song in their catalog. So it's, if Disturbed is going to finally get a Grammy, I would hate for it to be a song that really isn't characteristic of some of their great music in the past. I was surprised when I looked this up. I didn't think Disturbed had ever got a nomination before, but this is actually their third Grammy nomination. I think the reason the other two kind of slipped past me was because of the fact that they weren't in the metal category. They got a nomination back when there was a hard rock category, and they got a rock nomination for the cover that we just talked about, "Sound of Silence." So yeah. So Bad Man. I don't even think it's the best song on their latest album, and I definitely don't think it's among the great Disturbed songs of the past. In fact, if we were just judging the songs on their merit, I think Hive Mind, I enjoy that song a little bit more than Bad Man. So why did I rank them at third? Well, if the Grammys are going to slip up and give the award to someone who's not really, in my opinion, that deserving, I would rather them do a makeup call here and finally reward Disturbed for all the great music they've done in the past. Again, I don't think this is the one that should break through and give them the Grammy, but it would tickle me to see Disturbed finally win a Grammy. Slipknot's already won one. Ghost has already won one. So I don't think it would be justified, but I wouldn't mind seeing Disturbed walk off with the big prizes here. The other thing is I think this is actually a dark horse nomination to win the Grammy this year. If you know anything about the song Bad Man, it is a song protesting Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. And I've noticed over the years that a lot of times protest songs or songs that take on the events of the day are usually pretty popular with the award board. So this one has a sneaky chance of slipping in and getting this one. So for all those reasons, I rank Disturbed as the third best nomination. And the first of the nominations, I think, actually has a puncher's chance of winning this one. Now, as you can probably tell, I've disagreed with the first three nominations, but the next two are a little bit more favorable. All right, our second ranked nomination is Spirit Box with the song Jaded. Now, if you have been watching some of the content on this channel, you'll know I put out a top 25 songs of the year back in December, and Jaded came in at number 7, I believe, just out of the top 5. It is a song I love. One of the weird things, we talk about this a little bit when we talk about fixing the Grammys, is another thing that I would fix is the fact that metal goes into this weird best metal performance, generic, weird category. Frankly, I find it insulting. I don't understand what best metal performance even means. Is this a live thing? No. So what you have is this weird hodgepodge of songs and albums and maybe even an EP every once in a while. I would rather that the Grammys give metal its due and actually have categories for albums, categories for songs, etc. So here we have, of the 4 this year, the Grammys nominated 4 songs and 1 album. So of the 4 songs, this is my favorite by far. This is a fantastic song. I think it's one of the best songs Spirit Box has made up to date. And watch them. They are a star in the making. They seem to just continually refine their sound and make it better. And Jaded is a classic example of that. But since we're in this weird, generic, nondescript category, the one thing that I would change about this and would make it a much stronger case, in my opinion, is to nominate Spirit Box for their entire EP, The Fear of Fear. Because while Jaded is, in my opinion, the best song on that EP, there's not a bad track on it. A couple of others that jump out. Angel Eyes, The Void, really good stuff. So if I'm the Grammys and I'm in this weird category where it could be an album, it could be a song, why not do the entire EP? It is phenomenal. If you haven't listened to Spirit Box, I think it's one of the best EPs of the year, um, and should be the nomination, not just a single song. But it is what it is. We have a single song, Jaded. It's very good. Um, I think it has a fair chance of actually getting the award. Normally with the Grammys, there's a kind of you have to pay your dues. This is the very first nomination for Spirit Box. So I'd be surprised if right out of the bat they won the whole thing. But there are examples of that in the past. So I give it a fair shot. It is, like I said, the best song that they nominated. So you got to give it a little bit of credit. But I think it falls under Disturbed, believe it or not, in likelihood of winning the award. So that leaves one nominee left. You probably know who that is. Not only is it my pick for the awards, I also think it's the most likely winner from the Grammys. So let's talk about that one next. Our top-ranked nomination is for the band Metallica and their album 72 Seasons. Metallica is one of the biggest heavy metal bands in history. They have crossed into legendary status, and they are probably the most decorated heavy metal band in the Grammys. At last count, I believe they have had 23 nominations, and they have won the award 9 times, 6 of those awards coming from the metal category. So obviously Metallica is not just legendary amongst the fans, but also among the Grammys as well, which also means I think they're probably the favorites to win home the prize this year as well. I think it's one of those things where if you asked me, if you put up 4 songs, against one album, and that album is a good album that has, 4 or 5 great songs on it, how do the songs compete? That's my logic. If I have a really good song and a really good album, the album's going to win every time. So just the fact that the Grammys only nominated one album means it was a slam dunk for me to pick Metallica. Now I realize Metallica is a bit of a lightning rod for the fans, but I will say this. Once again, I put out a video back in December talking about the top 5 heavy metal albums of the year. I believe Metallica is in that top 5. So I think I think there is a little bit, we talk about this all the time. Metallica has hit that stage where they are the biggest heavy metal band in the world. So anytime they do something, it's going to be newsworthy. And I do believe they get a few bonus points here and there for being that legendary band. But I do believe it's unfair to say that Metallica is solely based on their past laurels. This album is really good. I think it's the best album they've done since the Black Album, and is, maybe not at their height level. I don't think this is Master of Puppets. I don't think this is Ride the Lightning, but it's pretty damn good. So, and I think, again, as far as albums go, one thing I really like is consistency. If I have an album where I like 3 or 4 songs, but don't care for the majority of the album, or, there's a lot of mediocre tracks, this is not the case with Metallica. They have a very consistent album that's good from the beginning to the end. It starts with the song 72 Seasons, and it just never lets up. So, yes, they get a little bit of a pass because they have been so good for so long, but I do believe I will go out on that hill and say this is one of the best metal albums of the year. So a pretty good nomination for the Grammys. But speaking of Metallica and the Grammys, this isn't their only Grammy nomination. Let's talk about their other Grammy nominations for this year. While this channel is dedicated to looking at the Grammys and looking at the metal category, I did notice that Metallica got nominated in 2 other categories this year. One is in kind of the weird, lumpy generic rock performance category. And ironically enough, in the metal generic category, they got nominated for the album 72 Seasons. In the rock performance, they got nominated for Lux Eterna, who, oh, by the way, is one of my favorite songs of the year as well. It landed in my top 25, and I do believe it is the best song on the album. But it's weird that the Grammys would nominate them in one basically similar type of category for an album, and here they do it for a song. And they also got nominated for Best Rock Album for the album 72 Seasons. Now, I looked at the two categories that Metallica was nominated in, and quite frankly, I think they should win both categories. Not really a big fan of some of the other artists that I saw in these categories. I saw the Foo Fighters in there. They're pretty good. They have a lot of really interesting songs and tracks over the years. The rest of it was pretty sus. A lot of it seemed like, is this what's considered rock these days? Because it seemed kind of popish to me. But again, these are not categories I spend a lot of time on. These are not artists I listen to. So, I'll just leave it as I think Metallica should win Best Rock Album as well. I think they should win Best Rock Performance. I think they're heads above the other nominees in both categories. But I would also like to say there should be more representation of some of the great metal in these categories as well. It almost seems like they have like one token metal band in there, and we didn't get anything for Best Rock Song. So again, the Grammys ignoring metal. I'm looking at these categories, and there is many metal acts that are going to be better than the acts that they're nominating. You could even take out like a lot of the extreme metal, right? A lot of your black metal, a lot of the really dirty vocals, and some of the things that maybe the mainstream music industry isn't ready for. There's plenty of melodic music out there in the heavy metal world that could fit into these categories. So come on, Grammys, do better. We're going to say yes to Metallica, but quite frankly, there should be a lot more metal represented in these categories. So anyway, as a conclusion, I suppose, Metallica for Best Metal Performance, Metallica for Best Rock Performance, and Metallica for Best Rock Album would be how, looking at their nominations, that's how I would go. But let's finish off this video with, we've heard what the Grammys opinion is. Let's finish it up with what I think really should happen. All right. In conclusion, you can probably tell I'm not a real big fan of what the Grammys are doing this year. Out of the 5 metal nominations, I think 2 are pretty good. 3 are not really all that deserving or inspired. With all the great music in 2023, I think those 3 in particular should be replaced. I won't even go into how awful the rock category is. The only worthy one in there is Metallica. So you're saying to yourself, okay, great, hotshot, how would you do it differently? Well, in order to keep this video fairly short, I'm not going to go into it right now. Instead, what I'm going to do is say next week, we're going to have our own award show. We're going to do it upright. We're going to get rid of these generic performance categories. We're going to tell you what the best metal album is. We're going to tell you what the best metal song is. We're going to talk about the best vocal performance, male and female. We're going to talk about best instruments. We're going to talk about best newcomer. We're even going to do something a little controversial. We're going to go through many of the subgenres and award the best album and song across those subgenres. So it's going to be a fun night. Tune in and listen. It's a busy new year. I get it. This is the time where you subscribe to the channel, You ring the bell, you get notifications so you don't miss this content, because you're going to get busy next week and we're going to have this big awards show and you're going to forget, and then, you're going to be embarrassed. Let's face it. You're going to be like, oh my goodness, I've missed the biggest night of the medal award season. But if you ring the bell and you subscribe to the channel, then you'll get notified. And not only will you be able to watch our content, but you can watch it live, because we're live every Tuesday night. Come on in and join us. It's fun. It's a small but loyal group that comes in and discusses all things metal. Make a New Year's resolution. Subscribe to the channel. Get notified. Start showing up every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Mountain Time. In the meantime, this is the Metal Dude signing off. As always, see you next Tuesday. Take care.